Good morning, guys. So, I developed a desire over time. I realized to learn how to help people improve their lives. So, this all started with obviously having a necessity or a desire to improve my own life. So I didn't realize at the moment that eventually I would want to learn how to help other people improve their life. But that is what I am going through right now. And sometimes it's difficult to put into words my whole experience because it's been such a long experience, but I'll share a little bit about it right now and what that has consisted of, more or less how it started, and I'll do my best to put that into words in a short video, and I'll continue to share more about that with time. So basically, the first thing was that I had to very consciously and honestly admit or realize that I wanted to change things in my life. So, for example, I've always known that I was very capable of being very independent. I knew that from my work ethic. I knew that from the amount of effort and what I was capable of doing. I just felt it. I think, like many of us know, we're capable of doing great things. So anyways, I needed to be honest with myself and realize that for a long time in my life, everything felt like it was the same. I never made no significant changes. I didn't feel no significant progress occurring. And I had never really paid attention to that. Many years went by, and I'm very young, but eventually, even though I'm very young, at some point I realized that a lot of time was passing by and not too much was changing. There wasn't too much progress occurring. A lot of the things were staying the same. So that made me feel like I know I'm capable. I want to be very independent, and besides that, I want to help provide for my family. And so I didn't realize a lot of what was occurring or what I would experience, but these are some of the things that took place, have taken place, and some of the things that I went through and that I am going through. So the first thing is that I had no idea where to start. I knew I wanted to change for the better, for lack of a better way to put it, but I had no idea where to start. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but I knew why. I knew that I wanted to take care of my family, and I knew that I wanted to be independent to start. I knew I wanted to improve my quality of life, and so that was enough for me to start trying. So very much I started completely in the dark. I started completely with no direction, with no idea of what to do. But I'll share with you what that looked like. So some of the first things I ever did was I used common sense to some extent. So I just realized that to improve my life, I needed to change my behaviors or my routines, my habits, my actions. I knew that much. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that to improve my life, I had to improve my actions. I knew that even though I didn't know what that meant. So I just started to basically, out of desperation, basically just out of complete desire to just improve my family's well-being and my own, I started to basically guess. And one of those things was I started to read books. So some of the books that I first read were, one of them was called A Simple Act of Gratitude. Another one was called When Everything Changes, Change Everything. Another one was called Hard Goals. And then another one was called, I believe, 177 Secrets of the Mentally Tough. I'm not sure if that's the exact title. I'll share that later, but it's basically a book on mentality. So those were some of the very first books I ever read. And my whole idea, like I said, I used common sense. The whole idea was to replace old actions and behaviors. I had no idea where to start, so I just started to guess. Basically shot in the dark, I just started to go. That was one first place that I started. So I started to read books, and I didn't realize at the time, but I hadn't really ever paid attention to what I wanted to do. I had never paid significant attention to what I wanted to do with my life. So for example, I always knew that I wanted to be successful, but I never paid attention to what that would look like, or I never paid attention to what that would be in my life. So as I started to read, one thing that I did also was, very unintentionally, I ended up alone a lot. So I was alone very often. So that was a huge part of it too. So besides using common sense and understanding that I had to replace my behaviors, my actions, and I had no idea where to start. So one of those was reading. Another thing that happened unintentionally, I was alone a lot. That was kind of like the beginning of my experience. I was alone a lot, and it was very confusing. It was very difficult, fair to say, and so that was a part of my experience at first. I was alone a lot, and then I knew that I had to replace my daily actions, so I started to read. So what that taught me was that I had to develop, or that I wanted to, or what that helped me do, is start developing a better understanding, a better idea of what I wanted to do with my life. Because when I was alone, that gave me time to think. First, that I didn't like feeling like I had nothing in my mind that was very clear about what I wanted to do. So being alone made me aware that I had no clear idea of what I wanted to do with my life. Then reading books started to help me in various ways. Like I said, A Simple Act of Gratitude, When Everything Changes, Change Everything. and Hard Goals. Those were 3, and then a book on mentality. Those were 4 of the books that I started to read. So the title of those books kind of gives you an idea of why they might help. So they started to guide me. So eventually one thing led to another, and this is what I've learned. Mental clarity was very important. So what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it, and some of those things, just real quick without going into detail, was things like self-confidence, self-esteem were a huge part of that. And the way that I've learned that you develop self-confidence and self-esteem is with having a clear direction, a clear understanding of what you want to do in life, and then building on that. And as you build, as you strengthen that mental clarity, as you strengthen that vision, and as you work on it, you start seeing that it's possible to really significantly change your life. But at first, it's hard to see. So through reading, I learned that commitment, discipline were a huge part of developing mental clarity. So, like I said, it was very much a shot in the dark, and these are some of the ways that I started to learn about commitment and discipline. So, some of the ways were, first of all, I would commit to read books. Another one was I would commit to eating a healthy diet. I didn't realize at the moment why these things were important, but with time they started to become more and more clear. Something about a healthy diet, like I said, I don't want to go into all the details right now, but something about a healthy diet is very significant. Something about reading books was very significant. Then I started to also learn commitment and discipline through exercise. So I started to exercise, and I started very beginner. Obviously, I was not good at any of these things. I had never done them. They felt very new. They felt fairly uncomfortable, but I was very motivated, or I was very committed to changing, to improving my life. I was ready to improve my life. And like I said, I'm very young, but eventually I did feel like I'm young, but time's passing by really quickly, and I want to start building a valuable, desirable life. So through reading, I learned that discipline, commitment were a huge part of quality life. So the way I started to learn discipline and commitment was through committing to read books, to have a healthy diet, to exercise. And those 3 things started teaching me discipline and commitment. And then from there, things started to develop. I developed an interest for a better life, a passion, a vision, and that's kind of where I started. I didn't know what kind of things I wanted to do with my life, what kind of person I like to be on a day-to-day basis, and I started to develop those things. I started to understand what kinds of things I wanted to experience in my life. And so now that's how I've grown a desire to learn how to help other people improve their lives, and I'm doing that by learning to improve my own. So I had to completely guess, because I had no idea where to start. And like I said, there was significance to it, but I started to read. I started to learn how to eat a healthy diet, and I started to learn how to exercise. I wasn't good at it at first, but those were significant things. And I found out as I continued to put an effort to strengthen those areas of my life. It took a long time, and it has taken a long time, but I started to understand why those things were important. And then so from there, after many months went by, for example, now I understand that I want to know, and I have been learning over many months. The last year was a huge part of it. The year before too, but last year specifically was an awesome year. I started to realize that I want to combine nutrition, fitness, and then learning how to develop my own mental clarity, and strengthening all these areas of my life. I want to learn how to teach other people to strengthen these areas of their lives as well. And so that has been a part of my experience. So basically, I had to start somewhere. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know why certain things were important to me at that moment, at those times. But now I understand that there are a difference between quality behaviors, habits, mentalities, actions, and less than beneficial or productive quality behaviors, actions, etc. And that's where I started to pay attention. That's where I started to put my focus, developing better habits, developing better behaviors, and developing a vision, developing a good understanding of what I want to do with my life, even a great understanding of what I want to do with my life and why. And pretty straightforward. I want to improve myself so that I can help other people in my life, so that I can support my loved ones significantly. And that's a basic, a basic idea of what I have learned so far.